Alright guys, my name is Forrest Still, and I am kind of the guy who's responsible for this, kind of. This is the NowKiss, and I'm going to teach you kind of how to install it, but first we need to kind of identify some issues with it, and we talk about what could happen if you don't do things the way, or don't bother to hand fit it, right? So I'm going to go ahead and drop this into the gun, and I'll show you what you can expect if you don't hand fit it. Alright, so without any hand fitting at all, it's really hard to pull the trigger, and let me try to break it free, but it is so rough. This would be, I mean, obviously this would fail to extract, and then if I'm pulling the trigger with any amount of tension, locks up. This is not usable. So let's talk about how to hand fit this. Alright, to hand fit this, you're going to need nothing more than a sheet of, sandpaper. We'll use 220 this time, but normally I'd recommend even less, like a 100 or 150, to get this down the least amount the most amount the fastest, right? What you are doing here, and there is an angle of attack here that's touching. The barrel is inside of the gun, wanting to make contact a bit like this. These two surfaces are touching right here and right here, right? And now they're not touching when you haven't pulled the trigger like that, but the moment you pull the trigger, they begin to touch, and then the barrel tilts down and does something like akin to that, right? Now, it's okay for them to be, they will eventually make contact. They have to make contact. If this does not touch this, then this never gets pushed forward, right? But it's important that they're not making much contact once the trigger is in the forward position. If the trigger's already pushed forward, we don't need it to be pushed forward anymore, and any more contact this is making is just going to serve to gum up the weapon, right? Now, inevitably, you will be able to force some contact there by pulling the trigger or applying pressure while the slide is to the rear, right? But we can fix that. So what you're going to do is start by just simply rounding out this trip surface. So I can show you here. Round that out. If that does not then work, then you can go about cutting a ramp in the front of it, similar to this. Let me see if I can show it. You can see there is a bit of a ramp right here, right? And for most people, a usable angle is just going to be this angle right here. Take a flat edge, go across here, and do that. Make sure you're not sanding around this pinhole, because you will weaken this and it will eventually break. Just get a nice usable thing. And you will need to cut this further and further back depending on how your engagement is on your pistol. If you're running a Glock 26 or a Glock 19 or Gen 3 or Gen 5, it doesn't matter. It's just, you just need to fit this to your gun, right? I'm going to go ahead and install this. And real quick, the best method to do this is to set it on a table right here. Make sure you're not grinding, this surface here, like I said, and just left to right, left to right, left to right, left to right for a minute or two.